Welcome to another episode of Card Subject to Change. Today, we welcome a golden voiced god, the single most revolutionary force in pro wrestling commentary, and every female wrestling fan's dream. Hold on. This is the cheesiest, most ridiculous intro we've ever had. The Stooges do have a guest, though. It's the voice of SCWPro, the one, the only, Tim Regal. And we're talking about all things in wrestling for the biggest weekend in indie professional wrestling. Take it away, boys.
Thank you for that amazing intro, Mrs. Engel. Welcome to Card Subject Change, the most must-listen-to podcast in the Quad Cities. When our mics go hot, your mouths go shut. And as you can see, we are one Stooge short today. Nick is in Des Moines on his way back, actually, as we speak. He'll join us when we have Mr. Regal here on for the bonus episode that we'll record later tonight. But right now, Mr. Engel, how you doing, sir?
I am doing wonderful, Mr. CZ. And like CZ said, we have a wonderful and pretty, I would say pretty able person to take over for Mr. Bull tonight, Mr. Timothy Regal. Hello, Tim. How are you, buddy?
Oh, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. And Chris, we call you Stripes on this show, right?
Yes,
That's right.
That's it.
Stripes and Chris. That way there's not a whole bunch of confusion.
You can call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
But that's what I was going to call you.
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to be on the show. We've talked about this for a long time. And a great weekend to do it. Also, Chris, thank your wife for. I'm surprised she didn't throw a few more colorful words in to describe you.
Oh no! Why would she do that? Come on.
But I kid. We all love the lovely Mrs. Angle. Yeah, guys, I'm happy to be here. It's a big week. Let's jump into it. Whatever you guys got.
Well, we're going to start off. You know, our audience doesn't know you very well, even though Stripes and I do. Tell us how you got into wrestling, both as a fan and into the business.
As a fan, I'll give the short version of the story. I knew what pro wrestling was, from a very early age. It came on, after cartoons on Sunday morning or when I was a little kid, and I'd see it. And then about sometime in late 1986, right around maybe November, December, I walked into a friend of my dad's house who had a teenage son. And he was sitting in the den and watching a videotape from the local video store of, I didn't know it at the time, but it was Wrestlemania 2. And I remember watching the Hogan Bundy cage match and just instantly was hooked into pro wrestling. I was like, this is awesome. They're in a cage. There's a guy bleeding. There's a huge giant bald guy, which before I grew a beard, I was told by many people I bear a certain resemblance to one King Kong Bundy. Immediately after that, jumped headfirst into pro wrestling, and I've been in love with it ever since.
So, what brought you into as we've mentioned, the commentator, the voice of SCWPro? What brought you into the business as a commentator and other various roles that I've known you've had?
So, back in about 2001, 2002, there was in the Quad Cities a local wrestling talk radio show called The Squared Circle, and I was a frequent contributor to that show. Shout out to our boy Scott Daly, who used to run KJOC. And we did that radio show, and this group of guys started calling the show, talking about their wrestling show, and we were like, well, we gotta go check this out. So they went. I missed the first show. They came back, reported to me, hey, go check these guys out. So I went out to a bar in Northwest Davenport. Got so excited to see my first independent wrestling show at the time. I locked my keys in the car with the engine running. Through that, I locked my keys in the car with the engine running. Through that, I had to find the guy who owned the place so I could find a phone to call and get my keys out. And I ran into a person by the name of Steven Youngblood, and introduced myself to Steven. He knew me from the radio show, and we got my keys out of my car before the show, and I made it into the show right as it was starting. And the first match that I saw was a gentleman by the name of Nightmare versus a young man by the name of Gix.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Gix would eventually go on to become one Mr. the Visionary Seth Rollins. So,
Who?
We don't know that name here at all.
And so I went to one show as a fan, and then in between that show and the next show, I got a call from one Nevin Knoxville and said, "Hey, you want to come out and maybe do something like ring announce or something?" So they brought me out, and I ended up being the commentator as a heel color guy for a few shows in the barn before the barn closed up. And then when we started back up in 2003, I was a manager. Some of you may remember T-Buff from Buff Enough. I was a Cross's fitness instructor at one point. But then after managing for a few years, I transitioned into first color commentary, and then eventually transitioned into the play-by-play role back in about 2013. And I have been doing that ever since.
And I love that. I think you being a big fan of independent wrestling, especially, that's why we wanted you on the show. Your knowledge is more than, Nick and I have both said, more than the two of us combined. I can't speak for Mr. Angle. Yeah. Probably all three of us combined. You mentioned one Seth Rollins. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid off. There's a famous video out there. Go ahead and tell us about that.
So for those of you who, well, some people watching this probably know, listening to this probably know, some may not. I am
if not, you better Google that right now. After this is over, don't stop during this episode. I want you guys to listen, and then after this, Google it, and then do yourself a favor.
Most people know me as, and it says it in my Twitter bio, the Moonsault Guy. That's Rollins Moonsault Guy. From the there's an infamous clip out there from the 10 Penny Invitational 2005 from IWA Mid-South. We were hitting the road quite often back in that era, and we'd be in actually we were in my mom's van a lot. And it'd be me, Stripes, Merrick Brave, Seth Rollins, Crotch, various other people, and Seth would always get into the thing of, "Regal, I want to do a moonsault off your belly," and we would joke about it, and we would make jokes because obviously I'm a very large individual, as pretty much everybody knows.
No.
So it became this thing where it just kept gaining steam, where it's like, "I'm gonna do a moonsault off your belly. I'm gonna moonsault off your belly." So Seth gets into the TPI, which is a big deal. And in the first round, he's supposed to wrestle AJ Styles. So we're like, I kind of played it. I may have played it the Iggy in his ear. I can't remember, to be honest. But I said, "Hey, if we're going to do that spot, now would be the time." So we kind of worked it out. And then, of course, AJ no-showed.
Oh.
Yeah, AJ no-shows. We ended up talking to Matt Seidel, and we talked Seidel into doing it. So we just did this spot, and keep in mind, this was 2005. I don't think YouTube was around yet.
This was the Wild West.
Yeah, viral video, like there was no TikTok, there was no Snapchat, viral video really wasn't a thing yet. We did this basically to pop the crowd, thinking it would be fun. It might, get some pop from high spots, that kind of high spots video, that kind of thing. Just a spot for the tournament to be cool. And then, as obviously YouTube took off and Vine takes off, and GIFs start to become a thing, and it obviously Tyler Black turned into Seth Rollins.
Yep.
It just kept gaining steam. It's been viewed multiple millions of times on YouTube alone. It's been GIFed everywhere. I am actually banned from certain Reddit forums.
You're banned?
Yes.
What?
There are certain Reddit forums that basically banned the GIF and said, "Don't post this anymore." Yeah, I got sent that by a buddy of mine one night. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
That's excellent.
But yeah, no. And I tell everybody this. It's cool. It's something I kind of become a. Sorry, my finger's on there. It's become a thing that I'm kind of known for. But like I said, it was originally just something we did for fun, and I'm happy it's kind of taken on a life of its own, and I've gotten a little bit of infamy out of it, which is cool. But yeah, that's the story of it.
I mean,
I gotta tell you.
Go ahead.
I got to tell you, Regal, every time I watch it, I Tony Schiavone you. This is the greatest moment in the history of our sport.
and that's the funny thing. Like, I'll be on Facebook like every couple months, and it'll just pop up on my feed, and I'm just like, where is this coming from? And then I look to you up. Yep, some other wrestling Facebook posted it again, and it's got like thousands upon thousands of likes, and I'm like, this is old. Like, what is going on? But speaking of the little bit of infamy that you got, I did remember that you were at a Joey Janela's spring break party, and
it was Joey Janela's all out after party.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
So probably one of the biggest times that I've ever used this. And keep in mind, I had a few beers in me. By the way, I do want to shout out that if you actually watch the clip with audio on YouTube, one of the first things you'll hear AEW referee Bryce Fridsberg say something to the effect of, "I don't know, we didn't check Scoville's blood pressure before the show."
I was refereeing that match, by the way.
Yes, you were refereeing that match. So a couple years ago, after All Out, and I had been drinking before All Out, and then during All Out, and then after All Out, and Joey Janela was hosting an after party at Starcast. So I remember I looked at Doug and I said, if I'm ever going to use this to kind of get some pump, now would be one of those times. So I just meandered my way to the stage, and Joey was asking people certain things. I said, "Hey, Joey, would you book the Moonsault guy versus Frank the Clown at spring break?" And he kind of looked at me for a second, and he said, "Oh," and Joey Janela goes, "Oh my God, you're the guy. You're coming up on my stage right now. Get up here." So Joey brought me up on stage. I ended up sandmaning a White Claw can against my head, which beer cans are one thing because they crunch. Yeah. Don't try to Sandman a White Claw can against your head because those little narrow cans don't move. I found this out that night. I damn near gigged myself. I'll say this again. I was drunk, and let's just say I may have been trying to impress a certain female by the name of Alley Catch. So I may have been trying to get some brownie points. I'll admit to that.
I thought you were going to say you were trying to impress Doug Ritter.
No. Don't
he follows the rules of the road.
Hey now, but no, it was a fun moment. Yes, but yeah, no. Joey Janela did pop pretty hard when he realized he had the Moonsault guy on the stage at the after party. I did call out Frank the Clown, as I have been doing over several years, and Frank still has not answered my challenge. I just want to throw that out there.
So funny thing enough, Tim, I'm gonna put this out here. I'm gonna put it into the universe. I actually just invited Frank the Clown on this podcast.
Nice.
I haven't received a reply back, but if anybody knows Frank the Clown, let him know I'm trying to slide in his DMs and get him on the show. So we're gonna finally see a Timothy Regal and Frank the Clown head to head, because I'll bring you on the show, Tim, and we'll have that off.
Hey, I've been trying to call him out for years. So anytime he wants to debate, we can go.
I love it. That would be fantastic. Keep us posted on that, Stripes.
Most definitely.
Tim, we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of the show, but I got a couple more questions that we tend to ask everybody. What you were talking about the VHS days, WrestleMania 2. If you were to go into a video store right now, see a rack of WWF VHS vintage tapes, what are you grabbing? What are you watching?
He's going back behind the curtain.
That's a hard one, man, because I had every pay-per-view tape in my closet back in the day. I gotta go with one of my. I think this is probably a popular answer for a lot of people. I'm gonna go Royal Rumble 1992.
Okay, yeah, that's come up a couple of times on the show.
I'd go with the greatest Royal Rumble of all time, and the Nature Boy styling and profiling for over an hour and winning the world title.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
Now, is that the one where it's all like they're coming through like a brick wall or something like that?
It was one of the cover. The cover art was one of the ones where it was like the comic book cover. I remember that. But it's.
Oh, okay, yeah, yep,
yeah.
I just pulled it up and yep, I remember that one.
Like I said, that Ric Flair Royal Rumble match, which is probably my favorite match of all time, and probably a match I've watched more than just about anything in the world. All
right. So is that, if I ask you about modern era going on to Peacock, is that the same thing you're going to tell me, or is there something else you're watching? What trips your trigger on a daily basis? What do you put on wrestling wise?
For me now, it's a lot of indies and Japan stuff. But if you're asking me to go to Peacock and pick out something modern WWE, I'm gonna go a few years back to the Royal Rumble. I want to say, 2018 or 2017. It was a triple threat match. It was Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins.
Ooh, I like that answer.
Okay.
I really like that answer.
Yeah, probably it is probably my favorite Seth Rollins match. That and of course,
that's a great answer.
And I'll throw obviously the other obvious answer would be the last time WrestleMania was in California at Santa Clara when Mr. Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank.
The heist of the century.
Yes. Let's just say we were in my friend Adam Gardner's apartment, and his roommate thought that for sure we were going to get the cops called on that night. So
that's the WrestleMania. That's the WrestleMania play button.
Stripes knows a little bit about getting the cops called at WrestleMania.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, someone won a world title. We're not going to mention who, and let's just say it was WrestleMania 20. And
yeah.
I got a little too excited. What? Yeah. What are you gonna say?
Well, that happens with you, Stripes. You get excited every time we're on the show too. So sometimes it's that's little too much here.
It wasn't just about 20 people in his living room that night.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine that. Tim, let's dive into it here. The reason you're here, the reason we definitely wanted you on the show for 2 episodes, we're talking all things WrestleMania weekend, and we're not just talking about the WWE. That'll come later on. You are, as far as Nick and I are concerned, the guru as far as independent wrestling goes, at least the one that we know the most. Like we said off the top, you know more about wrestling than the 3 of us combined. Let's talk about WrestleMania weekend. You were talking about voicesofwrestling.com. If you guys want to follow along, that's the site we're going off of. But let me ask you just off the top, what one match over this weekend are you looking forward to the most that's not in the WWE?
Instantly, my head goes directly to one thing, and that is Joey Janela's Bloodsport. It is going to be Speedball Mike Bailey, who I think is the best wrestler on the independents. Obviously, you see him on Impact, but he's on the Indies every weekend, all over the country, all over the world. And he is taking on probably one of the best wrestlers in the world, Kota Ibushi. That match, I think, dream match. It's going to be at Bloodsport, so it's going to be an interesting format. We'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, that is the match that for me that just jumps off of the page right off the bat.
So now are they doing a Bloodsport like type match for them also, or is it just going to be?
Yeah, it's Bloodsport is all the Bloodsport matches. Like I said, we'll talk about that when we get to the show. Obviously, I could go into that once we get up to that show. But yeah, no, Bloodsport is a unique format.
Yeah, it most definitely.
By the way, for anybody watching,
So I'm just
apologize for my camera movement. I thanks to the Blizzard storm last night. I have no internet, so I'm on my phone on mobile data. So I'm literally holding my phone. So I do apologize for the shaky cam on my end.
Well, I'm just looking at the whole WrestleMania weekend starts on Wednesday, if you believe that, on the 29th.
Yeah, I believe it.
First thing that's on the website, scrolling down, is Dark Arts Entertainment Monster Mania. What can you tell us about that, Tim?
Dark Arts Entertainment, I don't know much about them. I do know a person I am very fond of. Kid Bandit is one of the people involved in that. I believe they are on the show. I do love them. But yeah, there's a lot of shows this weekend, a lot of local California shows that I probably don't know all that much about. But we'll get into that stuff later. But yeah, no, Dark Arts Entertainment, I've seen a little bit of their stuff online, but just a local California indie, I believe.
So you mentioned Kid Bandit. I'm scrolling through here. I've got a couple of big names on, more than a couple of big names on this next one here. Pandemonium Pro Wrestling TV Volume 4, The Best Damn Thing. Looks like your boy Kid Bandit is on that show, but big names there. Looking at Johnny Hollywood, the TV champion, against Masha Slamovich. Slamovich just won the GCW title, did she not?
Yes,
that
she did. The Pandemonium Pro, I believe that's a new company. I believe they're taping this for some type of TV, whether that be over the internet or something. I don't know any details of that yet, but I do know it's kind of a taping format for them.
And I've got, just to looking through the card here, a couple of names that I recognize. Chris Bay, big part of the Bullet Club and in Impact Wrestling. Is it Bussy or Busey? Effie and Alley Catch?
It's pronounced Bussy, which
it's Bussy.
Yeah,
Bussy.
Yes, which
I apologize if I mispronounce names. I am not as versed in the independent scene as I want to be.
Let's just say Bussy is a term. We'll keep it PG on the show, but it's a reference to something.
Okay, that's fair.
Use your creative juices.
Don't Google it in front of your kids, and don't Google it.
Nope.
That's a no. I'm lucky that I don't have any kids that I speak to, so I won't get in trouble in that regard. But maybe I'll Google that later and regret it afterwards. Yeah. Regal, what are you looking at? I know you've got the site up here. Or not Angle, sorry. Yes. I know who I want to talk to.
So I'm going to skip around a little bit. There's some of these I don't even know. I'm not even going to go over, but Micromania Midget Wrestling. I'm not sure if, if you want to talk about it, Regal, we can. We can most definitely talk about it.
Don't think about that one. We can move on.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and look at Violence and Suffering, SWA Puerto Rico. The only thing that really jumps out to me on this one is Brian Kendrick versus Jimmy Lloyd. Now, I know you know a little bit about Jimmy Lloyd, Mr. Regal. You're a big GCW fan yourself.
Jimmy Lloyd, of course, a different boy, taking on Brian Kendrick in a match that can only happen at Mania Weekend.
Only at Mania Weekend.
VXS, I believe they're on Fight Plus. So I don't know if this one's going to be live streamed, but You can see some of their stuff. They are a really good company. I love their presentation. They have kind of like the Mortal Kombat ring announcer, and you'll hear the fight and then gong to start a match.
Gong.
They'll have like a clock, like a video game clock. It's
okay.
I've
It's different.
They did a late night show at Mania Weekend a couple of years ago back in Tampa. That was absolutely insane and ended with like big cast just killing ring crew guys at like 4 a.m.
Excellent. Awesome.
That sounds fantastic.
That sounds great.
I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I just pulled up the card for Bloodsport 9. A lot of big names here. You mentioned Kota Ibushi versus Mike Bailey. That should be fantastic. I got to see Speedball Mike Bailey down in Florida at an Impact Wrestling taping.
We're not even out of Wednesday.
Right, we're not. Looking at the Bloodsport card though, you've got John Moxley on there, Timothy Thatcher, a lot of big names. Talk about the Bloodsport 9 card.
Bloodsport. So I'll talk about the concept of Bloodsport. First off, if you've never seen a Bloodsport show, the first one was done by Matt Riddle, and then when he signed with WWE, they were taken over by former UFC heavyweight champion Josh Barnett. The concept of Bloodsport is it is just like the movie. There are no ropes on the ring. It is basically a platform, no ropes, no pinfalls. It is either submission or surrender. Some matches go very quickly. Some of the stuff is very hard hitting. Last year at Bloodsport, Ninja Mac knocked someone out legitimately with a head kick. One of the best matches of Wrestlemania Weekend last year was at Bloodsport. It was John Moxley taking on Biff Busick, the former Oni Lorcan, in a match where both guys just bled all over the place. Chris, if you want to run down some of those matches, again, with me not having internet and being on my phone, I'm kind of somewhat limited as to what the resource control I have in front of me. But
yeah, absolutely.
For us.
So we got the one you mentioned, Ibushi and Mike Bailey. We've got Marina Shafir taking on Killer Kelly. Eric Hammer. Oh, go ahead.
Very match I'm looking forward to there. Obviously, Marina Shafir, former UFC fighter. Killer Kelly, former WWE. Now I believe working in Impact. That is going to be. She is extremely hard hitting. That's going to be an interesting one right there.
Next, we've got Eric Hammer and Calvin Tankman.
Calvin Tankman, an Indiana guy. I've seen him. I've watched a lot of him. You see him on MLW. Eric Hammer, I believe, one of Josh Barnett's MMA guys, but Calvin Tankman, a guy who's been in Bloodsport several times and always puts on a really exciting fight.
Okay. We've got Davey Boy Smith Jr. versus, is it J.R. Kratos?
J.R. Kratos, the Davey Smith Jr. This is a Hoss battle. Two huge guys. J.R. Kratos is a big dude. Obviously, Davey Boy Smith Jr. been all over. Been in been in New Japan. Been in WWE. Been in MLW. That one should be really hard hitting.
Okay, that'll be Nick right up Nick's alley. He's big on the Haas fights. We'll have to put a bug in his ear about that. We've got the wind blows on him and he bleeds. Mr. John Moxley taking on Alex Coughlin.
Yeah, that was so. Alex Coughlin, a late replacement, as I'm not even going to go into who Moxley was supposed to face originally, but let's just say his opponent became extremely unavailable, and Alex Coughlin of the New Japan LA Dojo stepped up to take the fight, and Moxley. If you've only seen AEW Moxley, if you haven't seen New Japan Moxley or Bloodsport Moxley, this isn't Moxley going out there. This is the guy that comes out wearing the black shorts, the black trunks, and just goes in there and just straight up fights. And he brings it every single time. I watched him and Josh Barnett. I got to see Moxley and Chris Dickinson live at the Collective in Indianapolis back in 2020. And like I said, last year with Biff Busick had one of the best matches of the weekend. So that's going to be a fight. And hopefully the kid's ready for it.
We'll have to wait and see on that. This sounds like a great card. It doesn't sound like the type of wrestling that I'm into as much as other things. Next up, just running down the list, we've got Royce Isaacs versus Johnny Bloodsport. And I'm guessing that's is that John Morrison?
Yeah, that is one Mr. John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Impact, Johnny
every company he's ever worked for.
Of course, here he is Johnny Bloodsport. But obviously with the parkour skills, a great attention to this. Royce Isaacs, who if you've seen him he's been on the National Wrestling Alliance, big on New Japan Strong on New Japan World. Should be an excellent contest.
And then that comes up next. Josh Barnett against Timothy Thatcher. Thatcher is a hard hitter in my opinion, just from watching him in WWE. I can't even imagine what he's like on a Bloodsport card.
Yeah, this if you go back at all and see any of Thatcher's long evolved title reign, you can kind of get the clips of what you see from Timothy Thatcher at Bloodsport. Yeah. Let's just say no ropes on a wrestling ring is no problem at all for Timothy Thatcher, because he doesn't like to use them anyway. But if you saw his one match in Impact with Bryan Danielson, which was excellent, if you've seen one of my favorite NXT matches of all time, the Fight Pit match with Matt Riddle. This guy will. This is going to be hard hitting. There's going to be a lot of stretching, a lot of submission holds. Just can't wait for that one.
And then the last match on the card is I'm going to butcher that name.
Yuya Uemura.
Uemura against Bad Dude Tito.
Again, Uemura, a New Japan Young Lion on excursion. Bad Dude Tito, a New Japan guy, member of I want to say Team Filthy. But yeah, this again, the two New Japan guys hook it up here. Obviously, Bloodsport, like you, Chris, it might not be your cup of tea. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you're a fan of shoot style, if you're a fan of submission wrestling, if you're a fan of like almost a crossbreed with MMA, kind of a if you've ever seen old UWFI or Rings or Pancrase from Japan, or like if you're just like me who is a wrestling fan as well as an MMA fan, I think this is something you really want to look into. This is probably one of the cards I'm looking forward to the most all weekend.
Now, Tim, tell us what you know about the Mark Hitchcock, Memorial Super Show. Do you know anything about that?
Mark Hitchcock Memorial Super Show ran as a part of WrestleCon. It is also their big show of the weekend. These are super fun shows. You never know who's going to show up on them.
I mean, looking at the card, it looks like just stacked.
Yes.
You can actually get that. By the way, Bloodsport, part of the collective package that's going to be on Fight Plus. The Mark Hitchcock Memorial Super Show, I believe, is going to be live streaming on the High Spots Wrestling Network.
Okay.
You want to? I again, due to my internet situation, I don't have the card in front of me.
Yeah, we got. Let's see. We got Negro Casas against Ultimo Dragon. I mean,
two legends of Lucha Libre and Japan right there. That's going to be a hell of a fight.
Mike Bailey versus Shigehiro Irie. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Shigehiro Irie, a guy I've seen a lot of from the DDT promotion in Japan, but had a really long excursion on the American Indies a few years ago. Yep. Bigger guy, really hard hitting. Him and Speedball will be excellent. That one probably a dream match to a lot of indie fans.
Yeah, I've heard the name, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't, really seen any of his work. We got the AAA.
I will say
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're a good friend of our buddy One Called Manders.
He is. Let's see. We got the AAA Mega Championship on the line. Hijo del Vikingo versus Taurus. And we got versus Commander in a triple threat.
Interestingly, this is going to be a triple threat. I believe this is on Thursday. So the title will be up there on Thursday. And then they will turn around on Friday at Supercard of Honor. And it'll be Vikingo and Commander in a one-on-one match. But, I mean, if you've seen Vikingo, if you watched the Kenny Omega match, if you've seen Commander in the Generation Face of the Revolution ladder match, you know what you're going to get here. Black Taurus, probably one of the biggest luchadors you're ever going to see. But there's a thing in lucha wrestling called a base, which is basically the big giant guy in the match that can hold up for everybody else. And that is exactly what he is going to be there to do. You're going to see some super powerful, crazy stuff from him. He can fly too. If you're a big fan of like what you saw from Vikingo and Commander, you're definitely going to want to check that one out.
Let's see. We got the TJPW 10-woman tag showcase. It doesn't list off any of the tag teams, but
so they haven't announced any of the participants for that match. It's probably going to be just kind of a surprise. But Tokyo Joshi Pro will actually be doing a show earlier on in the day at the same venue, which I believe you can watch on Fight. Tokyo Joshi Pro, basically the 1B of Joshi promotions in Japan. 1B to Wonder Ring Stardom, which is probably the 1A. They're really, really close in quality and in presentation. But they're going to be doing a solo show. They're going to be part of this show. They're going to be part of some other shows. I know if you're a fan of women's wrestling, you're definitely going to want to check that one out on Fight TV. I know Billy Starks is going to be on that show. They're kind of blending it. Billy Starks has actually made some, just came back from a long excursion over there. And there, I believe, some other American independent females will be on those shows as well. So, if you're like I said, if you're a fan of women's wrestling, check that out and check out that match.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like we got Ray Horace, Aramis, Galeno Del Mal versus Toxin, Legito, and Ares.
Yeah, Ares. Again, using a lot of the lucha talent on this show that are going to be there at WrestleCon. Again, should just be super exciting. All those guys are going to do some crazy stuff.
And now this one, I'm looking pretty looking forward to. This is a heavy match right here. The United Empire with Jeff Cobb, Mark Davis, Kyle Fletcher versus Time Machine, Kushida, Chris Sabin, and Alex Shelley.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big week for Jeff Cobb as he has several books for Mania Weekend and just got announced he's gonna be taking on Kenny Omega on Wednesday for the New Japan United States Championship on Dynamite. So definitely, again, United Empire, probably one of the biggest stables in New Japan Pro Wrestling, of course, led by Will Ospreay, who was due to be on several Mania Weekend shows. Unfortunately, in the New Japan Cup 2 weeks ago, Ospreay sustained an injury and will be out for this Mania Weekend. Very unfortunate thing that happened, but injuries happen in wrestling. We roll on. So you have the 6-man here. United Empire, obviously, the Time Machines, the mixing of the Time Splitters from New Japan and the Motor City Machine Guns. Big week for Kushida, as he has several matches, including I'm sure we'll get into the Impact show here in a little bit. I
was so excited when I was down in Florida at the Impact shows. I got to see Kushida perform more than once. I always loved him when he was in WWE. It was amazing to see him live. He was with Time Machine at a couple of the shows that Impact taped down there, so that was fun to see as well. That's a match that I would look forward to for sure.
So now this match here, I'm not sure if it's. I did see something about Josh Alexander being injured, so I don't know if this is going to take place. But it's Josh Alexander and Tom Lawler against Kenta and Brian Keith. Tell me a little bit about it, Josh Alexander.
So I'm going to assume that Filthy Tom will probably get a replacement tag team partner for this match. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, yes, Josh Alexander, who had the longest reigning title reign in Impact Wrestling history, sustained an injury 2 weeks ago, tore his bicep, has had to vacate the Impact title, and had to pull off all of his Mania bookings. Really, really unfortunate because I am a huge fan of Josh Alexander. I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a huge fan of Josh Alexander. Now we got Rocky Romero versus Michael Oku. That's a name I haven't heard before, but I'm pretty sure you're probably familiar with him, Tim.
Michael Oku is a young British gentleman from Rev Pro. Has made some runs in New Japan. Was on some Mania cards last year. Very talented individual, very talented performer. Obviously, Rocky Romero, the king of sneaky style. Obviously, New Japan, the American booker for New Japan.
Yep. Yeah.
Him on Dynamite. This guy's all over the place. He's honestly probably one of the most powerful men in wrestling these days. But can still go in the ring. And I've always been a fan of Rocky. He's a super nice guy, super great performer. That should be a fun match.
So I'm just kind of jumping around. I scrolled down a little bit here. Found some names that a lot of people will be familiar with here for being WWE fans. Looking at the Empire Wrestling Federation and Los Angeles Wrestling, Jake the Snake Roberts flirting with Venom wrestling event. First match I see for those of you with WWE likings is Alberto Del Rio going against Vladimir Moskayev. Alberto Del Rio, big name for a lot of both good and bad reasons. What do you know about this card, Tim?
Honestly, nothing. Again, this is one of those ones where it's a local LA promotion.
Okay.
I always wonder about some of these shows because I wonder, like, who goes to these? It's like, obviously, we know all about the big shows. I know it got particularly crazy a few years ago in New York, 2019, before the year before the pandemic. ICW UK ran a show as part of Mania Weekend in New York City that apparently drew 15 people.
Whoa.
Yeah, I always wonder about some of these shows and like what they draw. This is a perfect example of this. I mean, I hope people show up for every show, but there's only so much that's going to go around, and obviously your bigger shows pick up some, but there are a lot of shows. It's good for the talent because you get to go out, you get to wrestle, you get to network. But I don't know as a fan how you get to all these shows.
The main reason I stopped there, I saw Jake Roberts' name. He's scheduled to appear, and I saw Alberto Del Rio. I'm like, oh, some guys that have been in the big leagues and aren't there anymore. But I want to really honestly talk about the New Japan Impact Multiverse United show.
Wait a minute. Before you go on, Chris Zach, you cannot skip over Chris Masters versus Sin Bodhi. Stop it! Stop the presses. Chris Masters against Sin Bodhi. Sin Bodhi? Timothy Regal, tell me about Sin Bodhi.
Sin Bodhi, the former Kazarni. One of has Chris blends into as Stripes blends into his background. One of the Kazarni. If anybody knows, Chris knows this. I love those vignettes more than anything in the world.
Yes.
I seriously wish that would have been something huge. I think this could have been Bray Wyatt before Bray Wyatt. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Sin Bodhi, a guy that's still out there doing it. And obviously, Chris Masters, dude, people say what about Chris Masters. I was a Chris Masters fan, and from everything I've gathered, a great guy, but also a guy that literally saved his mom's life when he pulled a tree out of the ground. So much respect to Chris Masters for that.
Now, here's something I want to talk about really quickly. I know the late great Marcus Crane would probably been on this show. It's Circle 6, Mama Cougar's Delicate Flowers. Let me tell you about this. We got a Flaming Tables match with Atticus Cougar and Jacob Fatu.
That is going to be something. I can talk about Circle 6 for a minute because I know some people working it, and I know some people that are going to a lot of Circle Six. Circle Six, a California-based promotion that is kind of a sprung out of a disagreement between various associates of GCW, and formed their own promotion. A lot of the former 440 from GCW is involved in this promotion. They are running several shows, but their concept for the shows is a little bit different. They're shorter shows, and all of their shows are themed around some of their performers, some of their wrestlers. A lot of them deathmatch based, but should be an interesting time. Obviously, I am a big fan of a lot of the people. Ironically, we were just watching some Circle Six at Lopez.
Really?
Yeah. Although I don't know, because they just announced some of their cards, I know they're going to be streaming. They haven't exactly said where yet. It's kind of strange that there's a lot of shows out there that I think are going to be streaming various places that haven't even announced where they're going to stream yet.
Right. Yeah. Another one of the matches that I saw, it just kind of caught my eye. It was the Chandelier of Death with Otis Cougar and Clint Margera. Now, would that be somebody related to Bam Margera?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. And then I think we lost CZ, but that's okay. I know he wanted to jump ahead and look over at the DDT show. DDT Goes to Hollywood. I'm pretty sure that's what he was talking about. I guarantee I'm going to butcher every single one of these names, Tim. So if you could help me out with this, that would be most definitely appreciated. Hey, there he is.
Sorry, I had to step away for just a second there.
We were just getting ready to talk about DDT Goes to Hollywood.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the Impact card right under that, but let me back up. Go ahead and butcher those names there, Stripes.
Yes, let's do it. All right. Konosuke Takashita. I know that one. Against Yuki Ueno, right? Ueno, is that what his name is?
Yeah, Ueno. Konosuke Takeshita, obviously, if you're an AEW fan, you know who Takeshita is. He is probably one of the biggest stars in the DDT promotion. DDT hooking up with GCW this year to be part of the collective. DDT is a kind of an interesting wrestling promotion in general. Some very good wrestling at the top of the card. Underneath, a lot of comedy, a lot of very eccentric, very bizarre wrestling.
Famously, that's where Kenny Omega wrestled. If I remember right, the little girl and the doll. Am I correct?
Wrestled the little girl. Kenny wrestled the little girl in DDT. There's also the doll that we have seen on multiple occasions. There is Dandy Dino, who is going to be on these shows, who I believe in one of the matches, in one of the shows, is in a tag match where they will be taking on Bussy, which I can only imagine what Dandy Dino and Effie are going to get up to.
Oh my!
Yes. Buckle up, because I don't think that was going to be for the kids. It's DDT is going to be interesting because I think you're going to get essentially a greatest hits collection of DDT. They did some stuff a few years ago at WrestleCon that kind of went viral a little bit. And I saw some of the stuff and I was like, I actually have a friend, Thomas Montgomery, who is a huge DDT fan, so he kind of fills me in. I am not super familiar with DDT. I have seen some shows, but not a lot. But no, a lot of people, a lot of fans are excited for these shows. I will say that.
Speaking of Thomas Montgomery, isn't he the one that was still trying to catch up on Off the Chest podcast?
He still might be trying to catch up.
Yeah, I think he might be. Okay.
I think he might be.
Yeah, let's go and skip down to the New Japan Impact Multiverse.
That
card.
looks like a brilliant card.
Let's do that. I'll let you take it away, CZ.
right off the top of the card is Hiroshi Tanahashi against Speedball Mike Bailey. That has to be a candidate for match of the weekend right there, in my opinion. Wouldn't you say, Tim?
Yeah, that's so. This was supposed to be Speedball Mike Bailey versus Will Ospreay. Unfortunately, again, obvious Ospreay sustained an injury, so they had to find a replacement, and I definitely more than suitable replacement getting Hiroshi Tanahashi, who is, of course, a New Japan legend, the ace of New Japan for years and years, and this is going to be a huge main event for that show.
And, just going down the card, this whole card looks fantastic, especially if you're a fan of Impact Wrestling. Josh Alexander, their world champion, takes on Kushida. Always been a fan of Kushida, like I said. That should be a great match. What do you think about that matchup, Tim?
Well, obviously Josh is injured, so I don't know whether that match is going to be...
Oh, that's right. We were talking. I'm sorry. You mentioned that. Let's move past my forgetfulness.
That's okay.
We've got Moose versus Jeff Cobb.
Two big guys, as Big E would say, big beefy men slapping meat.
That's right.
That's exactly what you're going to get in this match.
You've got the X Division Championship champion Trey Miguel defending against Frankie Kazarian, Rich Swann, Kevin Knight, Clark Connors, and Rocky Romero. A lot of good names in that match.
Mix of some great Impact X Division talent, some great juniors from New Japan. A guy you might want to really keep an eye out on is Kevin Knight. Recently just graduated from Young Lion status in New Japan. Very, very talented. I'm really high on him. Clark Connors, who had a excellent showing last year at AEW New Japan Forbidden Door in the TV title match. And then Rocky Romero, the grizzled veteran. So obviously Trey Miguel, a guy I've watched since his very early indie days. Everybody in that match is super talented. Those X Division matches usually are very high octane. I know last year they had a Ultimate X match that was excellent. This one I think it's just a regular kind of scramble match, but should be a killer match.
And then Kenta takes on Minoru Suzuki for the Strong Openweight Championship. That's going to be great.
Two New Japan legends. Minoru Suzuki, if you saw the match with Bryan Danielson and the stuff he's done with Moxley, and then Kenta, the former Hideo Itami from WWE, if you go back to that. Again, these two have been embroiled in a feud. A lot of questions on what Suzuki's long-term future is, but obviously, we're getting just on the chat, it's going to be a banger.
For sure. This one has a lot of names that I really like to see. I'm looking forward to this. The tag match for the Impact Tag Team Champions. Looks like it's a fatal four-way. You've got the Bullet Club with Austin Ace and Chris Bay going against Aussie Open. Excuse me, sorry. That is Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher. TMDK, which is Shane Haste and Bad Dude Tito. And, of course, my longtime favorites, the veterans in the match, the Motor City Machine Guns. That, of course, being Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Always love a good four-way match when it comes to the tag teams because they knock it out of the park, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a match that I'm looking forward to. Ace Austin and Chris Bay representing Bullet Club, the Impact chapter. Ace Austin, kind of the de facto leader of Bullet Club in Impact. Chris Bay, hugely talented. Motor City Machine Guns, like you said, tag team legends. And then Shane Hayes teaming up with Mikey Nichols for TMDK here. Normally it's Mikey Nichols and or Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols, but Bad Dude Tito stepping in here. Not sure why the change, but should be a good team. And God, I'm blanking on the fourth team. Help me out, Chris.
Aussie
Aussie Open. Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher. If you've if you want to see anything of theirs, obviously there's stuff from Impact, but if you can watch any of the matches they had with FTR for the IWGP titles, some of the best matches of last year.
I'm going to throw this out there. If you have Honor Club, go watch this week's Ring of Honor episode on Honor Club. They had a match against I'm sorry. I completely blanked. I know who they faced. The Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, and Mike Seidel.
Or Matt Seidel, yeah.
Matt Seidel, yes. That I just watched that this morning. That was a great match. Aussie Open, fantastic wrestlers. This whole match is going to be a good match to watch for sure. After that, we have a looks like an 8-man. It's Fred Rosser, Alex Coughlin, Callahan, and PCO going against Eddie Edwards, Joe Hendry, Tom Lawler, and JR Kratos. What do you think of that match, Tim?
Kind of a hodgepodge match. Obviously, on both sides, you got 2 guys from Impact and 2 guys from New Japan, both on the babyface side and on the heel side. I'm a huge fan of, I'll just say this, I believe in Joe Henry. If you are not familiar with Joe Henry, his gimmick is very, very fun. The sort of motivational speaker actually got a cameo from Mr. Henry a while back, where he dissected the infamous moonsault video. So that was kind of
Did you see his video on Matt Cardona being Edge's bitch from a couple months ago?
I did not. I need to check that one out. But
you need to find that. That is hilarious.
I like I said, I believe in Joe Henry. So
after that, we've got the Knockouts World Championship. I don't know if this one's going to go. Rumor has it Mickie James is on the injured list as well.
It is now a triple threat match.
Okay.
So you've got Deonna Purrazzo, Giselle Shaw, and Yamashita. Is it Miyu?
Miyu Yamashita.
Miyu Yamashita?
Yes.
So those 3 are going, and that is for the title of Mickie James's.
That is going to be for number 1 contendership for the title.
Number 1 contendership. Okay.
Yeah. I would love to see Yamashita get the victory here. Miyu Yamashita, not to be confused with Miyu Yamashita from GCW. They are 2 different wrestlers. 2 very different wrestlers. But Yamashita, one of the best Joshi talents out there today. Hugely talented. I'd love to see her get the number contendership and then hopefully go against Mickie. If not, there's a backup contingency plan, I guess, for both. I can't remember how it all works out, but Giselle Shaw's been on a tear in Impact. And then Deonna is one of the most decorated female wrestlers of the decade in the United States. So great women's match there.
For sure. And then the last match on that card is Yuya Uemura against Gabriel Kidd.
2 New Japan not young lions, but guys that just graduated from the Young Lion program. Yuya Uemura is a guy they're super high on. Gabe Kidd, British talent who is extremely talented. Should be a good, nice, solid opener for that card. But I will say this year it's called Multiverse United. Last year was Multiverse of Matches. Last year this ended up being one of the best shows of the weekend. And I think this year it's probably going to be the same.
Just looking at the names on the card, I would agree with that. That's a fantastic lineup, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that, as I scroll down, that's going to be Thursday at 10 p.m. Central Time on Fight TV. If you're looking to watch that one, we'll put a pin on that one for sure. Stripes, you got the next card, my friend?
Let's go ahead and jump down to Friday. We're going to start off Friday at 11 a.m. with GCW Jimmy Lloyd's D-Generation F. We got Kenzie Page against Sandra Moon.
Now, Kenzie Page, she's from New South, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
New South, I believe, NWA Women's Tag Team Champion, Envy.
I got to see her in my journeys down at a New South show. She is their current champion, which she looks the belt on Kenzie Page looks like the biggest belt in the world. It is as big as she is. I'm not kidding.
That New South title belt is something else. I'll just say that.
It's a great belt. It's huge, and if she held the belt up, it would cover her head to toe. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
This show just looks like a lot of newcomers. Jack Cartwheel against Hunter Drake.
Hunter Drake, another kid from the Southeast.
Okay,
saw him there too.
Yeah, another kid from New South. Jack Cartwheel, we've seen on GCW. He's actually done some stuff with AAA in Mexico, I want to say.
Okay.
Very highly, very aerial. Very obviously, his name's Jack Cartwheel for a reason.
Yeah.
He can do some very interesting stuff in the ring. But yeah, Jimmy Lloyd's D-Generation F, kind of a show featuring some younger talent, featuring some talent that you may not have seen. I remember back in 2020 in Indianapolis, I got to see a very young Kerry Morton on one of those shows.
Okay.
One called Manders has been on those. I know 2 years ago in Tampa Bay, our very own Deanna Roosman was actually on this show. So,
ooh.
Let's see. Looking at some more of the card here. Sawyer Wreck and Bobby Orlando.
Sawyer Wreck, obviously, if you've watched GCW or H2 Wrestling on IWTV, very hard-hitting female, very tall. She is a very interesting wrestler to watch. Bobby Orlando, a lot of people have seen him on Wrestling Open, on Beyond Wrestling. Super talented, super charismatic. That should be an interesting matchup.
Okay, and then we got the East West Express with Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne versus the Best Bros. Balian Akai, and May Segura versus Wasted Youth and Dylan McKay and Marcus Mathers. And we got CPF, Joe Lando, and Danny Black.
Yeah. A mix of some GCW talent, some California talent, some Japanese talent.
Okay.
Jimmy Lloyd going all over the map.
It's just gonna be a hodgepodge of a show, but it looks like a lot of newcomers and a lot of people that may be, coming out of WrestleMania weekend as stars of the shows.
And that's something you got to look at. I feel like, even going back to 2020 when it was, in the height of the pandemic, and we got together in Indianapolis and socially distanced for a collective. A lot of people came out of that kind of, I know, Top Flight, Culture Season, which had a guy named Christian Casanova, who we now know as Carmelo Hayes, was on those shows. Colby Carino. So just these D-Generation F shows and the collective Mania weekend in general, you're gonna see some talent that are gonna come out, blow you away. Back in 2020, it was Lee Moriarty was another one who just blew everybody away at the collective and then got signed. So a good Mania weekend showing can really help an indie talent along, and I think that's kind of what D-Generation F is all about.
And we're talking about Game Changer Wrestling here. They have another show on Friday against DDT. DDT versus GCW. Another show with a lot of good names on here. Is it Mao, M-A-O, and Mike Bailey against Nick Wayne and John Oliver at the top of the card right there?
Yeah.
Mike Bailey, a name we've talked about a lot. He is definitely somebody to look out for.
Speedball was the MVP last year, and I don't see any reason that he doesn't repeat this year, in my opinion. The guy is just amazing and has the stamina to just go through like 13, 14 matches over the course of 4 days and just keep running. So
And just looking, I'm only gonna name a couple things off of this card. I see something huge for fans here locally. We've got the Second Gear Crew. The reason I bring that up, one of the first names listed is our friend of the podcast, the one called Manders, accompanied with Matthew Justice and Mance Warner. He's taking
Mancer,
on.
baby.
They're taking on Chris Brooks, Shunma Katsumata, and Mizuki Watasi. Is it Watasi? Am I pronouncing that right?
I believe it's with Tasso, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But no, I do know Chris Brooks, Australian talent. Again, this should be a very interesting match, very hard hitting. Like I said, DDT kind of runs a hodgepodge of professional wrestling, but again, aside, I'm not super familiar with everybody in that match, but obviously, we're going to be back in the Second Gear Crew 100%, backing up my boy,
Absolutely.
called Manders, and my our good buddy, the Mance Warner and Matthew Justice. So,
Yes, absolutely. That was the biggest one that stood out to me. I saw Mander's name on there. Obviously, if you want to listen to him gab with me and Nick for an hour or so, you can go back in our archives. Great interview. Can't wait to have him back on the show. Joey Janela has a match on that card. Joey Janela, let's talk about him for a bit. He has his own show on here. I haven't quite gotten down there yet, but every year we've got the Joey Janela Spring Break. Talk about that for a little bit.
Spring Break, the showcase show of the collective. Like this show started a few years ago back in New Orleans, just kind of as a late night show. Actually, I believe it started in Orlando. Was it Orlando? I want to say the last Orlando Mania, I think, is when that one started. But
It might have.
a show that kind of started off as a late night show with a lot of craziness, but is sort of transformed as far as when GCW started the collective into basically like the showcase event for independent wrestling for Mania Weekend as far as GCW goes. And yeah, this year no exception. Let's go ahead and run down that lineup because it is just absolutely loaded.
I am trying to find that here. I'm still scrolling a little bit. Sorry about that.
I can't find it either. What night is that on, Regal? Tim, do you know?
It's
Saturday night?
That one is Friday night.
Aha. Thank you, sir.
Well, that helps.
Friday night about 6 p.m. Their time, 8 p.m. our time, if I'm thinking correctly.
Here it is. Okay. So
There we
there are only 3 matches scheduled on the card right now. Oh, this is going to be a fantastic match. You've got El Hijo del Vikingo going against Speedball Mike Bailey. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's right there. Just boom. That one, I mean, yeah, it's a Vikingo, huge weekend for him. Bailey, huge weekend for him. And I think that's a marquee matchup of the weekend right there.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait to check out that one. That's going to be amazing. The GCW World Tag Team Championships are on the line. You've got the Machine Guns, Motor City Machine Guns, another name we've mentioned more than once here, going against the East West Express, Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver. That should be a fantastic match.
Obviously, there you got Motor City Machine Guns, and then you got East West Express, who've been on a hell of a roll. Jordan Oliver, a guy who I was watching years ago in CZW when he was a skinny teenager, who's put in all the work to, move himself up into that, light heavyweight area, but used to be a kid that weighed, I think when he started, weighed about 150 pounds, and has really pushed himself really hard to get into good wrestling shape. And then Nick Wayne, a prodigy, still in high school, 18 years old, has an AEW contract in waiting. But I think I'll just say it right now. I think you're looking at the coronation of new GCW Tag Team Champions here. I think this is kind of the story they've been building. East West Express is going to walk out of here with those titles, and that I know. I'll just say I've talked to some people, and I know that everybody in that match is really, really, really looking forward to it, and I know they're going to go all out.
And this whole show, I know there's only 3 matches on the card. This is going to be a show to watch because the third match listed is Kota Ibushi against Joey Janela, and that's going to be fantastic as well.
Yeah, Joey Janela, always he's wrestled the great Sasuke. He's wrestled God, I'm trying to think. It's like I know the first one he wrestled Marty Jannetty.
Yeah.
Wrestled great
Now
Sasuke.
the funny thing about this is I was scrolling on Twitter and Joey Janela had posted something about wrestling Kota Ibushi, and the best thing about it was Kota Ibushi, big league Joey Janela. He put in Japanese. He put who is this guy, or who even is this guy?
Yeah.
And I don't know if Kota Ibushi is just too busy to kind of know what he's doing within the next couple weekends, but like
Ibushi's
it was
break stuff before, so I think they know each other. Although I don't know, Kota Ibushi, he's a different individual. He's a unique individual. So always hard to say. But no, that should be a very interesting matchup. Really looking forward to it. Don't worry, it's not just a 3-match show. There's going to be a whole lot more. You never quite know what you're going to get when you tune into Joey Janela's Spring Break. So
it's kind of like an Ian Rotten show. You never know what you're going to get.
I mean,
and those are just the matches announced. So look forward to that for sure.
Hey, Stripes, we always knew we were going to at least one thing on Ian Rotten show. Ian was going to talk 25 minutes at the start of the show.
That is very correct. That is correct, sir.
Gentlemen, I want to backtrack a little bit on Friday night because I would feel bad if we didn't talk about Supercard of Honor. That's a big show, always a big show for Ring of Honor. I've been following along on Honor Club. A lot of good build here and some great matches, in my opinion. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Claudio is defending the world title against Eddie Kingston. That should be a great match. But I think the highlight of Supercard of Honor has to be the Reach for the Sky ladder match for the ROH tag titles. Just to run down the names, you've got the Lucha Brothers, you've got the Kingdom, you've got Aussie Open, Dralistico and Roosh, and Top Flight, all in that ladder match, trying to become the next tag team champions of ROH.
Between the Face of the Revolution ladder match and then the Commander versus El Hijo del Vikingo match, the airport's going to be catching some stuff on the radar. We'll put it that as Ross would have said. But
that is for sure. We've mentioned Vikingo several times. Like he's going to be a big name this weekend to watch out for, and going against Commander for the AEW Mega Championship, that is another match to put on your matches to watch for sure.
Most definitely.
Yeah. But we should mention once again, Joey Janela's Spring Break, part of the collective package on Fight. Supercard of Honor, I believe, is on Bleacher Report, as all AEW and Ring of Honor pay-per-views are.
Yep.
I'm going to throw a quick plug out here that if you know of places where we hang out in the Quad Cities and eat pizza and maybe have a beer or two, might be able to catch a Supercard of Honor at a certain Low Pies pizza location.
That is exactly what I was just going to talk about. Low Pies is definitely the spot to be if you want to catch up on any of the wrestling action. They do have a pro wrestling on, is it every Sunday now, Tim?
Well, so here's the thing with Low Pies. There's pretty much always some pro wrestling on the TVs at Low Pies.
Okay.
Sunday nights in particular, when our buddy Mike is bartending, and I tend to hang out down there, and our very own Alex McCarthy, Knight Wagner. Occasionally you'll get some stop-ins from some SCWPro talent.
Yep.
I've been down there with Matt Mayday.
Yeah. Last weekend we were blessed by the presence of the Card Subject to Change podcast crew. So
Yes, sir.
But I will say I don't know everything I'm going to be there for, but definitely be there for Supercard of Honor, and I'll probably be down there quite a bit this weekend just to kind of hang out. We'll watch some wrestling down there. Probably watch at least Sunday Night Mania, if not both nights of Mania. I'm not quite sure yet. Haven't really figured out the plan for everything, but
Right.
anytime you stop in at Lopez this weekend, you're going to be able to probably catch some wrestling.
Most definitely.
And that's for sure. Lopez is a great place to go. Great food, great wrestling, great atmosphere. Gentlemen, we're going to put a bow on this show. I know we've talked a lot. There's a lot of other shows out there to watch this weekend, but we've been going for a little over an hour. We're going to take a bit of a break and come back. The next show. Oh, go ahead.
Before we go, I know we didn't hit it because it's on Sunday. It's on Saturday morning. I do want to shout out Effie's Big Game Brunch.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, I was going to point that out. Yes.
If you're a fan, obviously, if you're a supporter, if you're an ally, just if you want to see great wrestling,
Yep.
I've been to 3 Effie's Big Game Brunch shows. The first one in Indy, and then the last 2 were in the 2 years in Chicago. Probably the most fun I've ever had at a show as a fan. They are unique shows. Obviously, I'm a big. I consider myself an ally, and if you're an ally, and you want to support the amazing LGBTQ wrestling community, these are great shows. They're very fun. I have said I'm gonna gush over them forever, but they're some of the most fun I've had as a fan being there live. Unfortunately, I'm not going to LA this year, but check out those shows. Check out that show. You will not be disappointed.
Amen. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a great way to wrap this show. We will be coming back in the studio a little bit later. I hate to disappoint anybody who's still with us on Facebook. That show is not going to be live. We are going to be recording that. That's going to drop on a Wednesday, but we will be back with Mr. Tim Regal, the voice of SCWPro. We're going to talk about Wrestlemania, everything WWE. We'll probably even touch on Stand and Deliver when we record our next show, and you can catch that on Wednesday everywhere you get your podcasts. But for right now, we're going to wrap things up. Mr. Regal, I want to thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to throw a quick plug out. Obviously, everybody's got Mania Weekend on the mind this weekend, but don't forget Saturday night, April the 8th, Bluegrass Community Center, SCWPro Epic, one of the biggest SCWPro cards in history. If you're in the Quad Cities, don't be late. Get to the Bluegrass Community Center. We're going to pack that place to the walls. It's going to be one of the biggest nights in SCWPro history. Don't miss out on that. Once again, April 8th, a week from Saturday, 1 week after all the Mania craziness, but definitely want to join us for that.
Hey, that's another thing I feel confident being happy you brought up, because I'm going to announce right now the Monday after Epic, we're going to have Merrick Brave back on the show to talk about Epic and its history, the matches from that weekend. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday, tuning in for Mr. Regal's Part 2, where we go things. It'll be Regal Mania. We'll see you then. Thank you for tuning in live. Tim, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you being here. And
Absolutely.
We will catch you all next time.
Peace.